The desert winds of Vega 9 blew across the rocky plains, carrying dust that shimmered under the twin suns. Captain Elias Ward adjusted the strap of his rifle across his chest and kept walking. His boots crunched against the dry soil, every step reminding him how far he was from Earth. He was alone on this survey mission, far from the safety of the outpost. The scanners had detected faint energy signals in this sector, but so far Elias had found nothing but sand, rocks, and silence. He sighed and checked his wrist display again. Still no sign of life, he muttered. His own voice sounded strange in the emptiness. He turned to head back toward his rover when he heard it. Soft, shaky footsteps. Not the clumsy thuds of a beast or the sharp clicks of desert bugs. These footsteps were small, uneven, like a child's. Elias froze. His instincts sharpened. This world belonged to the Serath Empire, an alien civilization known for their cruelty. Humans were not welcome here. If he was discovered, war could spark. He slowly raised his rifle and scanned the horizon. At first, he saw nothing. Then, through the heat waves, a small figure stumbled into view. It was a child, not human, not completely. The skin was pale silver, glistening faintly in the sun. The eyes were huge and violet, shimmering like crystals. The figure's small body trembled with exhaustion, bare feet kicking up dust. Before Elias could react, the child's gaze locked onto him. In that instant, something impossible happened. The child gasped, eyes widening, and ran straight toward him. Tears streaked its cheeks as it cried in a voice both alien and strangely familiar. "Dad." Elias's chest tightened. He lowered his rifle in shock. "What?" The child collided with him, wrapping thin arms around his waist, clinging tightly as if he were the only safe thing in the world. Elias stood frozen, staring down at the alien child, pressing its face against his uniform. This couldn't be real. It had to be a trap, a trick, but the trembling in the child's body, the desperate grip of its tiny hands, none of it felt fake. I think you've made a mistake," Elias whispered, gently trying to peel the child off. "I'm not your—" But the child only cried harder, repeating the word, "Dad." Dad. Elias felt his heart sink. He wasn't a father. He had never been one. He had no family left back on Earth. And yet, here was this alien child, speaking a word that cut straight into him. Before he could process it, the air around them shifted. A ripple of energy shimmered across the horizon. Elias's instinct screamed at him someone was watching. He scanned the cliffs and saw faint glimmers. Like armor catching the sun, scouts, the Serath, were here. "Damn it," Elias muttered under his breath. If they had seen this, if they had witnessed an alien child calling a human father, then things were about to spiral out of control. He crouched and looked into the child's violet eyes. "Listen, kid. We need to move now." The child sniffled but nodded as if trusting him completely. Elias lifted the small figure into his arms. Light as air. Too light. The child hadn't eaten properly in days. Carrying the child, he jogged back toward his rover. Every second counted. The sand shifted behind him, the scouts were moving. He heard distant metallic sounds like weapons being primed. Elias threw himself into the rover's driver's seat, buckling the child beside him. The engine roared to life, wheels grinding over the rocks. The vehicle sped across the plains as plasma bolts exploded behind them, sending sand fountains into the air. The child clung to him, eyes wide with fear. Elias gritted his teeth and pushed the rover harder. They reached the outpost's perimeter shield, just as the last plasma bolt streaked past, splashing harmlessly against the energy barrier. The Serath scouts didn't dare pursue further. They stopped at the edge, glaring with their insect-like helmets before vanishing back into the desert. Elias parked the rover inside the hangar and shut the engine off. His hands were trembling. He turned to the child, who sat silently now, staring at him as if he were the center of the universe. Elias rubbed his face. "All right. Let's figure this out." He crouched to eye level with the child. "Who are you?" "Why do you think I'm your father?" The child tilted its head, then reached out a small hand to touch his face. The gesture was gentle, innocent, filled with trust. "Dad," the child whispered again. Elias exhaled slowly. Something deep in his chest stirred, a mix of confusion, fear, and a strange warmth he hadn't felt in years. Outside the hangar, the suns dipped lower, painting the desert red. Elias knew one thing. Whatever had just happened, it wasn't small. The Serath scouts had seen, Word would spread. Somewhere out there, the alien queen herself would hear about this. The desert night of Vega 9 was cold, almost as harsh as the blazing day. Inside the human outpost, Captain Elias Ward paced back and forth in the command room, his eyes never leaving the alien child sitting quietly near the corner. The child hugged its knees, staring at him with those violet eyes that seemed far too old for such a small body. Elias had given it a thermal blanket and some food paste, but it had only nibbled before curling into silence. Every few minutes, Elias caught the child whispering the same word, "Dad." He rubbed his forehead. "This is insane," he muttered. "I don't even know your name, kid." He crouched in front of the child. "Can you speak more? Do you understand me?" The child tilted its head, silver skin catching the faint light. Then, in a quiet voice, it said, "Lyra." Elias blinked. "Lyra, that's your name?" The child nodded. Finally, something to hold on to. "All right, Lyra. I don't know why you think I'm your father, but we'll figure this out." But deep down, Elias knew this wasn't just a mystery to solve. The Serath had seen everything. They wouldn't let it go. And he was right. By the next morning, the outpost scanners screamed with alerts. A massive energy signature had entered the atmosphere. Elias rushed to the viewport and froze. A colossal warship cut through the sky, blotting out one of the suns. Its hull gleamed like obsidian, engraved with alien runes that glowed faintly. Around it swarmed dozens of smaller escort ships, forming a shielded formation. The Serath Empire had arrived. Elias's stomach tightened. He knew what that meant. Only one person traveled with that much power, the alien queen herself. "Damn it," Elias whispered. The comm system crackled. A cold, commanding voice filled the outpost. "Human, this is Queen Serathia of the Serath Empire. You have something that belongs to me." Lyra, still sitting in the corner, stiffened. Her eyes widened and she clutched the blanket tighter. Elias clenched his fists. He had expected scouts, maybe soldiers, but the queen herself? This was far worse. Minutes later, the outpost hangar doors opened under the weight of alien technology. The Serath Royal Guard marched in first, towering figures in black armor, insect-like helmets gleaming under the lights. Their weapons crackled with violet energy, and then she entered. Queen Serathia was tall, her presence overwhelming. Her skin shimmered with the same silver tone as Lyra's, but her eyes burned brighter, glowing with authority. She wore a crown of living crystal that pulsed with energy, and her steps echoed with command. Elias felt the air grow heavy as she walked closer, her guards surrounding her like shadows. Her gaze locked onto him. No, onto Lyra. The queen's voice was calm but carried steel. "Child, come here," but Lyra didn't move. She shrank back, clinging to Elias's leg. The queen's expression hardened. "What is this mockery?" Elias stood firm. "The child came to me, called me father. I don't know why, but I didn't do anything to make it happen." The queen's eyes narrowed, sharp as blades. "You dare claim innocence? Do you think me a fool, human?" "I'm telling the truth," Elias said, his voice steady despite the tension. "I've never seen her before yesterday." But Lyra buried her face against him, her small voice breaking the silence. "Dad?" The queen's hand twitched. For the first time, her control seemed shaken. Whispers spread among her guards. Elias caught the flicker in her expression. Shock. Serathia stepped forward, her gaze boring into him. "Explain this. How does a Serath child call a human father?" Elias swallowed hard. "I wish I knew." The queen circled him, her presence like a storm. "Perhaps you humans have stolen our young, experimented, corrupted them with your weak blood." Elias stiffened. "We don't steal children." Her voice rose, laced with anger. "Then tell me, Captain Elias Ward, why does she not come to me, her queen, but to you?" Lyra whimpered, clinging tighter. The queen's eyes softened for just a fraction of a second. She could order her guards to take the child by force. But even she knew the court was watching. If her people saw a child rejecting her for a human, her authority could fracture. Serathia straightened. "If you are not lying, then we will test the truth. You will come to the royal chamber. Both of you," Elias frowned. "And if I refuse?" Her smile was cold. "Then your outpost will be ash before the sun set." The guards raised their weapons in perfect unison. Elias knew he had no choice. He exhaled slowly, then looked down at Lyra. "Stay close, kid." Lyra nodded, trusting him completely. The journey to the Queen's flagship was overwhelming. Elias had been on human warships, but this was different. Alien, alive. The corridors pulsed faintly as if the ship itself breathed. The air carried a sweet metallic scent, and alien eyes followed him everywhere. They reached the throne chamber. A vast hall stretched out, lined with alien nobles. Runes glowed on the walls, casting violet light. At the center, the Queen's throne stood, carved from a single crystal grown from the planet's core. Elias stood before it, Lyra holding his hand tightly. The Queen ascended her throne, her crown glowing brighter. "You claim ignorance, very well. We shall prove it." She raised her hand, and a strange device floated forward, humming with power. Elias recognized it as both technology and ritual artifact. "The test of blood and memory," she declared. "It will reveal the truth. If you are bound to this child, it will show. If not, then we will see what deception has been played." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even among the Serath, this was rare. Elias's throat tightened. He didn't trust alien magic tech, but he also had no choice. The Queen's gaze cut into him. "Step forward, human. Let us see if your lies survive the light." Elias looked down at Lyra. She stared back, unafraid, squeezing his hand. For a moment, Elias wondered why she trusted him so much. He had no answers, only questions. But he knew one thing. Whatever the truth was, it was about to shake the galaxy. He stepped forward into the circle of light. The Queen's eyes narrowed as the device began to glow. The throne chamber was silent. The air itself seemed to hold its breath as Captain Elias Ward stood inside the glowing circle. The alien child, Lyra, still clung to his hand, her violet eyes fixed on him with complete trust. Queen Serathia raised her hand, and the strange device above the throne began to hum louder. It looked like a sphere of crystal and metal, alive with pulsing energy. Light spread from it, filling the chamber with violet and silver sparks. "This is the test of blood and memory," the Queen announced, her voice echoing across the chamber. "It cannot lie. It will reveal what binds this child to you." Elias swallowed hard. He hated being a pawn in alien rituals, but there was no choice. Refusal meant death. Two of the Serath nobles stepped forward, carrying thin, glowing blades. They cut tiny marks across his palm and Lyra's. Elias hissed as the blade stung, but the cut was small. Lyra only winced before grabbing his hand again. The drops of blood floated up into the air, pulled toward the crystal sphere. The device drank them in. Then it pulsed brighter, once, twice, then flared so bright that some of the nobles shielded their eyes. Elias squinted. The light twisted and bent into strange shapes like strands of DNA floating in the air. He wasn't a scientist, but even he recognized patterns. Human and alien, woven together. Murmurs filled the chamber. Nobles gasped, their voices rising in shock. "It cannot be. The child. It carries human essence. This is impossible. Our kind is pure." Queen Serathia's face froze. Her eyes narrowed as she stared at the patterns forming above the sphere. The strands twisted tighter, then finally locked together, glowing as one. The message was clear. The child, Lyra, carried both human and Serath blood. Elias's stomach dropped. His mind raced. How is this possible? He had never fathered a child, certainly not with an alien. And yet, the proof was here, glowing in front of everyone. The Queen stood, her voice like thunder. "Silence!" The chamber fell quiet instantly. She glared at Elias. "What trick is this? No human has ever mixed with our kind. It is forbidden." "It is impossible." "I don't know," Elias said honestly. "I don't understand any of this." Lyra pressed closer to him, whispering again. "Dad." The Queen's lips trembled, but she quickly masked it with anger. "This changes nothing. If this child is corrupted with human blood, then it is a danger to the Empire. It must be taken, dissected, studied." "No." Elias snapped before he could stop himself. His voice echoed through the chamber. Every noble turned in shock. No human had ever dared raise his voice to the Queen inside her own throne room. Elias stepped in front of Lyra protectively. "She's just a child. She hasn't hurt anyone. If you try to harm her, you'll have to go through me." The nobles gasped again, whispers rising. "Arrogant human. He defies the Queen." Yet the child clings to him still. The Queen's eyes burned like fire. "You dare speak as if you are her guardian?" Elias met her gaze without flinching. Maybe I am. I didn't ask for it, but she chose me. For a long moment, the chamber held only silence. Then Sarathia's voice softened, almost a whisper, though still sharp. Chosen. By a child. Her words carried something dangerous. Doubt. The test wasn't finished yet. The device pulsed again, brighter, projecting visions into the air. Memories. Elias's eyes widened as images filled the chamber. He saw himself years ago on Earth during the war against the Serath. Battles, fire, blood. He remembered those days all too well. But the visions twisted, showing something more. An alien facility. Experiments. Scientists blending human and Serath DNA. Hidden projects during the war that he had never known about. And then, Lyra. A baby inside a stasis chamber, her tiny chest rising and falling as machines monitored her. Elias staggered. No, this isn't me. This is... The Queen's eyes widened in shock. She too saw it. The ancients. The nobles whispered louder. Some cried out in fear, others in excitement. It was true. The ancients tried to merge us with humans. The child is proof of prophecy. No, it is blasphemy. Elias clenched his fists. He now understood. Lyra wasn't just any child. She was the result of experiments long buried, secrets both humans and Serath had hidden, but somehow fate had pushed her into his arms. The vision faded, leaving silence heavy as stone. The Queen slowly sank back into her throne, her expression unreadable. This child, she said at last, her voice quieter than before, is dangerous. No, Elias said firmly. She's innocent. She didn't ask to be created, but she's alive. She deserves to live. The Queen's gaze flicked to him sharply. And you would protect her? Against me? Against the entire empire? Elias didn't hesitate. Yes, the chamber erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted over one another. He defies the Queen. The prophecy is true. The humans are tied to us. Kill him now before it spreads. Guards raised their weapons. Elias pulled Lyra close, ready to fight, though he knew the odds were hopeless. But Queen Sarathia lifted her hand, and the chamber fell silent again. Her eyes locked onto Elias, burning with conflict. For the first time, she did not know what to do. Take them to the lower chambers, she ordered at last. Do not harm the child. Not yet. The guards hesitated, confused by her mercy, but obeyed. As they led Elias and Lyra away, the Queen sat alone on her throne, staring at the fading light of the test of blood and memory. Her empire demanded strength. Her people demanded purity. But what she had seen shook everything she believed. A child of two worlds. A human standing against her without fear. And the word that still echoed in her mind. Dad. For the first time in her reign, Queen Sarathia felt something she had never known before. Doubt. The lower chambers of the Serath flagship were cold and dimly lit, filled with humming machinery and alien glyphs that pulsed faintly with violet light. Captain Elias Ward and Lyra were escorted down long corridors by two Serath guards, their weapons glowing as they walked. Despite their intimidating presence, Elias noticed the child held onto him tightly, unafraid. He glanced down at her. Stay close, Lyra. Remember, don't let go. She nodded, eyes wide but determined. The bond between them had grown stronger in the last few hours, a connection that neither of them could explain but both instinctively trusted. Once they reached a secure holding area, the guards released them into a small chamber. The walls were smooth, metallic, and unyielding. A single platform rose from the center, etched with alien runes. Stay here, one of the guards ordered. Do not move. The Queen will decide your fate soon. Elias watched as they left, the heavy doors closing with a hiss behind them. He knelt down beside Lyra, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. Looks like it's just us for now, he whispered. But it won't stay quiet for long. Elias didn't have to wait long. Within moments, alarms blared across the chamber. Red lights flashed, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Somewhere in the corridors, metallic footsteps rang out. Not the measured pace of the Queen's guards, but quick, precise, and deadly. They're coming, Elias muttered. Get ready, Lyra. The child looked at him with wide eyes. I can help, she said softly. Elias hesitated. Lyra, you need to stay behind me. They're soldiers. They'll... But before he could finish, the doors burst open. A squad of Serath assassins stormed in, weapons crackling with violet energy. They were silent, efficient, their armor gleaming under the flashing red lights. Elias grabbed the nearest guardrail and shoved it toward them, using it as a makeshift shield. Bolts of energy slammed against the walls, shaking the room. "Lyra, stay close," he shouted, firing his rifle at the advancing soldiers. Each shot found a target, but there were too many. The child stepped forward, her small hands raised. A strange energy began to glow around her, faint at first, then growing stronger. Elias froze. What are you doing?" he yelled. The energy formed a shimmering barrier around them, deflecting incoming attacks. Sparks flew as violet bolts struck the invisible shield, bouncing off harmlessly. The assassins paused, their confusion evident even through their helmets. "Lyra," Elias whispered, awe mixed with fear. You're protecting us?" The child nodded, focusing intently. Her energy pulsed, growing brighter with every moment. Suddenly, the barrier expanded outward, forcing the attackers back. They stumbled, their formations breaking. Elias seized the moment, grabbing Lyra's hand. "Run, we need to get to the control room." They sprinted down the corridor, the sounds of chaos echoing behind them. Bolts of energy streaked past, tearing the walls and leaving scorch marks. Elias ducked, rolled, and kept moving, Lyra's small hands gripping his tightly. The control room was a sprawling chamber filled with holographic displays, buttons, and levers. Elias slammed the door shut, locking it with a hiss. He leaned against it, breathing heavily. Lyra stood in the center, her energy still glowing faintly around her. I didn't mean to hurt anyone," she whispered. Elias shook his head. "You didn't. You saved us. You have power. And it's amazing." She looked down, unsure. They'll take me back. The Queen. She'll be angry." Elias knelt beside her. "Lyra, listen to me. Whoever they are, whatever they think, they can't decide your future, you do. And I'll make sure they don't take you away." For a moment, the child's eyes softened. She hugged him tightly, letting him feel her trust and reliance. Outside the control room, the sounds of battle continued. Elias realized that the Queen had not only sent assassins, but likely mobilized factions of her empire. Some wanted Lyra taken by force. Others, perhaps secretly, were starting to doubt. Hours passed. The battles outside raged on, but inside the control room, Elias and Lyra began to understand each other more. She revealed tiny flashes of memory, visions from the test, glimpses of the secret experiments, and fragments of a prophecy whispered among the Seraph. The prophecy says, "A child of two worlds will decide the future," Lyra said softly. Elias frowned. "Two worlds? That means you're special. Really special." The child nodded, eyes filled with both fear and determination. They wanted to use me. Make me like them. But I don't want to be used." Elias took a deep breath. "Then we'll stop them together." At that moment, the door to the control room slid open with a hiss. Elias raised his rifle, ready to fight. But the figure that entered was not an assassin. Queen Sarathia herself stepped in, her crown glowing faintly. Her guards waited silently at the threshold, not daring to enter. Elias rose, standing protectively in front of Lyra. "Stay back," he warned. The Queen paused, studying them both. Her expression was unreadable, but Elias could see the faint flicker of something new. Curiosity. Perhaps even admiration. "Child," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Come to me." Lyra shook her head. "No, I choose him. He is my father." Elias felt his chest tighten. "Father? She really believes it." The Queen's eyes widened slightly, a reaction Elias noticed instantly. Even she had not expected the child to make such a choice, openly defying her. "Impossible," she whispered. Elias stepped forward, meeting her gaze. "She's not just an experiment. She's alive, and she chose me. You can't take her without war." A murmur ran through the Queen's guards. Some exchanged uncertain glances. Others shifted uncomfortably, unsure of their loyalty. Queen Sarathia's lips pressed into a thin line. Perhaps the humans are not as weak as we thought." Elias's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "You survived the ambush," she said, glancing at the destroyed corridor outside. "You protected her. Without fear, without hesitation," Elias shrugged. "I'm not a hero, I just did what was right." The Queen took a step closer, her gaze intense. "You are dangerous. Because you love. That is a power we do not understand." Outside, the sounds of battle began to die down. Some factions of the Serath were retreating, unwilling to challenge the Queen's authority without full knowledge. Others were frozen, watching the scene unfold, unsure which side to choose. Elias realized that Lyra's presence, her unique heritage, and the bond between them had created a shift in the Empire itself. Even the Queen, feared across countless worlds, was unsure how to respond. Lyra looked up at Elias, eyes shining. "They won't take me, will they?" Elias smiled, squeezing her hand. "Not if I can help it." "I promise, Lyra." The Queen studied them for a long moment. Finally, she nodded slowly. "Very well. The child may remain with you for now. But know this, human, the balance of power has shifted. The Empire will watch, and not all will accept this union." Elias nodded. "I understand. But she is my responsibility now, and I won't let anyone harm her." The Queen's gaze softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. Perhaps there is hope in your kind. But this child may be the key to our future. A future that is neither fully human nor fully Serath." Lyra hugged Elias tightly, her small energy still pulsing faintly around them. The bond between them had grown stronger, unbroken by fear or battle. Outside the control room, the Empire stirred, whispers of doubt and wonder spreading through the ranks. The Queen had chosen patience for now, but the galaxy itself was watching. Elias realized that their journey had only just begun. Lyra's power, her choice, and their bond would shape the fate of humans, aliens, and the fragile balance between them. The throne chamber was quiet now, but the tension in the air was thicker than ever. Word of Lyra's survival, her powers, and her choice to stay with Elias had spread across the Serath Empire like wildfire. Outside the palace, factions of the Empire debated openly. Some demanded the child be returned. Others whispered of prophecy and the power she represented. Inside, Captain Elias Ward and Lyra stood together, facing the alien Queen Serathia, who sat on her crystal throne. Her violet eyes burned with authority, yet there was a flicker of uncertainty. For the first time in centuries, the Queen did not have a clear answer to a challenge before her. "You brought her here, human," the Queen said, her voice firm but tinged with something else, curiosity, "and she refuses to leave. She calls you father." "Explain this." Elias held Lyra close, taking a deep breath. "She came to me because she trusts me, because I chose to protect her. I don't know why or how, but this bond is real, and I won't let anyone take her from me." Lyra stepped forward, her small hand lifting toward the Queen. "I choose him," she said, her voice steady and strong. "He is my father, not because of blood, but because he loves me." The chamber fell silent. Even the guards lowered their weapons, stunned by the child's declaration. Some whispered nervously, while others simply stared. Queen Serathia leaned forward, her expression unreadable. "A human defies me, and a child of my empire chooses him. Do you understand what this means, Elias Ward?" "I do," Elias replied. "It means you can try to take her, but it won't change the truth. She is not a tool. She is alive. She is her own person, and she chooses me." The Queen's crown shimmered faintly. She studied the child closely, noting how Lyra's powers pulsed gently around her, energy that seemed to respond to emotion, to love, to protection. No experiment, no prophecy, no rule could explain this. For a long moment, the chamber was quiet, the only sound the soft hum of alien machinery. The Queen's guards shifted uneasily, uncertain of their next move. Finally, Serathia spoke. "You risked war, human. You protected her against my own soldiers, and yet, here she stands unharmed because of you. That is unexpected." Elias met her gaze steadily. "Then you understand. She doesn't need fear to obey. She needs love to choose." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some of the alien nobles whispered among themselves, the first cracks appearing in the Empire's rigid control. The Queen's eyes softened for a fleeting moment. "Perhaps humanity is not as weak as I thought. Perhaps it is dangerous, because it loves." Lyra smiled, small but confident. "I am not afraid of anyone when I am with him." Serathia's expression shifted, a mixture of pride, fear, and wonder. She had ruled the Serath Empire for centuries, yet never had she encountered a human who could defy her in such a way, nor a child who could refuse the crown and claim a human as parent. "You are daring, human," the Queen said slowly, "and you have something my empire cannot ignore, a bond that cannot be measured, a courage that cannot be broken. You protect what is precious not because of power but because of love. Elias felt a swell of hope tempered by caution. Then you won't take her by force? The queen leaned back in her throne, her gaze still fixed on Lyra. Not yet. But the Empire watches. Some will not understand this choice, others may see it as a new path forward. Outside, the city was tense. Rumors of Lyra's decision had spread quickly, and alien citizens gathered in the streets debating. Some scorned the human and the child, fearing a weakening of their traditions. Others whispered about prophecy, about the merging of worlds, about the future that had begun right here, in this chamber. Inside, the queen stood from her throne, stepping closer to Elias and Lyra. Her presence was imposing, yet there was no malice in her voice. Child of two worlds, she said to Lyra, you have made a choice. You chose life over duty, love over fear. You have forced your empire to question itself. Know this, your decision will echo through generations. And human, you have shown what it truly means to protect, to love, and to stand against impossible odds. Elias swallowed hard. Thank you. But she is not just mine. She is hers. She chose to be with me. That is all. The queen's eyes flicked to Lyra. Do you understand the weight of your choice, child? Lyra nodded, her energy pulsing gently. Yes, I choose him because he loves me and because I trust him. That is stronger than fear or power. The queen's lips pressed into a thin line. Then slowly she straightened. So be it, for now she stays with you. But mark this, human, the Empire will test this bond. Some may see it as defiance, others as hope. And history will remember your choice here. Elias nodded solemnly. I understand, and I'll face whatever comes. With her by my side, Lyra smiled, stepping closer to him. Together, days passed. The immediate threat of violence receded as Queen Serathia sent emissaries to manage the Empire's factions. Some were loyal to tradition, but others began to see the merit in Elias and Lyra's bond. Word spread across planets and star systems. A child of two worlds had chosen a human over the Queen's crown, and the human had protected her. In private moments, Elias taught Lyra about human customs, about trust and kindness. She taught him about Serath culture, about patience, and about the subtle powers she had yet to fully control. Their bond grew stronger, grounded in trust, love, and shared experience. Even the queen observed from afar. She could not deny the strength of their connection, nor the potential it represented. Slowly, she began to consider a future where humans and Serath might coexist, not as enemies, but as partners guided by the example of one small child who had refused to be used. Then came the day of the first council meeting. The queen called her nobles together, demanding that all factions witness the truth of Lyra's choice. Elias and Lyra were escorted into the chamber. The child stood confidently beside him, her energy gently shimmering, a visible symbol of unity between two worlds. The nobles whispered nervously, some in awe, some in anger. Queen Serathia raised her hand for silence. This child, she said, is of two worlds. She has chosen life and love over fear and obedience. She has chosen the human who protected her, and in doing so she has forced us to confront the future. The Empire will watch and history will remember this moment. But for now, she remains under his care. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some accepted it, some resisted, but none could deny the child's choice, nor the courage of the human who had protected her. Lyra stepped forward, holding Elias's hand. I chose him because he is my father, not because of blood, but because of love. That is stronger than fear, stronger than power. The chamber went silent. Even the queen could not speak immediately. She nodded slowly. Yes, she said at last. Love is a force even the strongest empire cannot ignore. Let this be the beginning of a new era, not of war, but of understanding. Months passed, and the fragile bond between humans and Serath began to grow. Elias and Lyra became symbols of unity, courage, and the extraordinary strength of choice. Across the stars, whispers of their story inspired hope. Lyra's powers grew, tempered by her humanity and her father's guidance. The queen, once a figure of unyielding authority, watched and learned. Slowly, she began to change her perspective on strength, realizing that it was not measured by fear or control, but by love, trust, and courage. One evening, as the suns of Vega 9 set together in the sky, Elias and Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin lights bathed the city in gold and violet, a reminder of two worlds intertwined. Lyra looked up at him. Do you think the queen will ever fully trust me? Elias smiled, ruffling her silver hair. Maybe not fully, but she'll learn. And so will the rest of the Empire. You've already changed everything just by being you. Lyra hugged him tightly. I'm glad I ran to you, Dad. Elias hugged her back, feeling the weight and joy of everything they had endured. Me too, kid. Me too. Above them, the stars began to shine, countless worlds watching silently. Somewhere, the Queen looked on as well, thinking about the future she had never imagined. For the first time in her long reign, she wondered what it truly meant to protect, to love, and to trust. And in that moment, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see how this story, a story of courage, choice, and love, would shape the fate of countless worlds. Together, Elias and Lyra had defied fear, faced impossible odds and chosen each other, and in doing so they had shaken empires, changed the course of history, and shown that the greatest power in the universe was not strength, but love.